All right, I wanted to thank everyone for coming. Reverend John Turner for our second adult discussion of our summer schedule, August 1st. I'd like to first begin by putting our hands together in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. So we are having a live Zoom meeting, and we're also recording it for later on-demand viewing on YouTube. I'm going to share my screen. This is our thumbnail for our YouTube channel. We have a volunteer at OCBC who does these. And today I'm going to focus on good luck and gratitude. But first, we're going to chant the Jusege. It's on page 39 in our service book. This chanting service book is available at ocbuddhist.org. You can use it online, or you can download it and have a copy resident on your machine, and you can also print it out as a hard copy. So before we chant, we gasho again. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Gagon chosegan hishimu jodo shigan fumanzo seifu josho ga omuryoko fuinai seishu Fusai shobingu seifu josho ga shijo butsudo myosho chojipo kukyo mishomon seifu josho ga Ryokujin shonen joe shubongyo shigumu jodo isho tenin shi jinriki endai ko fusho musaido Shoujo san kumyo kosai shu yakunan kai ichi egen meshi komo an heisoku sho akudo tsudatsu zen shumon Koso jo manzo iyoro jippo nichigatsu shujuki tenko on fugen ishukai ozo kosei kudoku ho Jo nai shuchu seppo shishiku kuyo isai butsu gusoku shutoku hon ganne shitsujo man toku isangai yo Nyobutsu mugechi tsudatsu mi fusho gangaku eri toshi sai shoson shiganya koka daisen okando Koku shotenin to uchim yoge naman Namandabu, Namandabu, Namandabu. Ganishikudoku, Byodo se isai, Dohon bonai shin, Ojo an lakoku. Namandavats, 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 namandavats. So I would like to begin my talk on good luck and hard work. I found a YouTube video that was very interesting, and I wanted to share it with you. There's kind of two sides to Jodo Shinshu. There's the side that kind of is self-reflective and becomes aware of our biases. And then by doing that, we open ourselves up to a whole new perspective and orientation and awakening in our lives. And these two things go together. But I think it's unusual in America to hear kind of a negative presentation in the beginning, because you would expect religion to be very uplifting and optimistic and positive. But our founder, Shinran Shonin, when he wrote, he was very, very personal and very experiential. So he's not really writing doctrine, he's describing his experiences. And sometimes they're quite raw. And he's actually admired for this ability to be so ruthlessly honest with himself. And I want to take this out of the Christian context of good and bad, of right and wrong, and of evil. Our delusions are something we're born with. We don't see clearly. We're unaware of what we're doing. So it's more obliviousness than any kind of moral judgment. So good luck and gratitude. We all live within what is called an egotistic or egocentric bias. Life feels like it revolves around us, and that each one of us does the majority of the work. This is true both at home and at work. We will explore why we feel like this and how we can overcome it. The secret to happiness is to embrace both luck and hard work with a sense of profound gratitude. We might even realize how lucky we are that we're even able to do the hard work necessary for success. So, this is kind of the way we live our lives. I feel like this. I'm the center of my universe. I see everything through my lenses. Everything I look at, I judge relative to me and how it affects me. And this is very normal and natural, and it's effortless. We're not really selfish. We just don't know any better. We're unaware. And so I was going to start out with a couple quotes from sutras, and then we're going to move into more modern, contemporary presentation. So one of my favorite books is a Nirvana Sutra, translated by Dr. Mark Blum at the University of California at Berkeley. And these are the kind of people that are unable to realize awakening. It's not whether you're a good person or a bad person. Everybody has the ability to be rescued by Buddhism, but it's the unaware part, the oblivious part, that blocks us off from progress. So these three descriptions come out of the Nirvana Sutra. The people that have the greatest difficulty on the Buddhist path they don't see what has been done. They're unaware of what they do. They don't come forward with the harmful things that they themselves have done. So there's no sense of contrition or awareness. And maybe the worst one is they're aware of their bad behavior, but it does not distress them. So these are the things that make it difficult for people to realize awakening on the path. It's not a moral judgment. It's more a judgment or a description or an awareness of the obliviousness. It's very hard to have a religious depth or a spiritual path in your life if you're oblivious to these three bullets. And then I wanted to show you some quotes from Shinran. They sound a little harsh, especially when you first come to a Jodo Shinshu temple. But I wanted to highlight some of the key terms. He talks a lot about blind passion, about being blinded by our emotions. And he's speaking personally. He's not saying you people. He's saying, when I practice Buddhism, this is what I see in myself. He also talks a lot about our foolishness and, again, blind passions. He also talks about we have no shame, we have no guilt, we have no awareness, and that leads to a state of being unrepentant. We don't feel guilty, we don't feel sorry, we don't have the impetus to grow and change because we're unaware. We're blissfully unaware. And then the last one, he felt that he was incapable of religious practice because he was seeing the world upside down. Everything was backwards. And so this is kind of this realization of this profound, deep, egotistic bias where everything revolves around me and my feelings and my judgment. This is the reason why I always think I'm right. So I went on the internet and I Googled around. This is a nice egotistic bias icon or image. Everything always comes back to ourselves. I like these kind of icons. A lot of times they're more impactful than just reading a quotation from a book. This is an artistic representation of this state of mind. Everything is always self-referential. I enjoyed this quote on the internet. This is not a Buddhist. I think she's a counselor, but it caught my eye. Your level of ignorance is based on what you believe you know and your ego. And then I used to feel this way at work. This is the egotistic bias. We really feel like we're integral to everything that goes on around us. That, nothing would get done at work if it wasn't for me. Because we're so aware of the hard work we do. We're making the effort and it's difficult. And we're very aware of that. And we tend to not notice those around us. So there's three reasons for this egotistic bias. Egocentric bias is caused by three related factors. First, people overemphasize the work that they have done and its importance to the overall process or project compared to the tasks that other people work on. So I was a programmer and I always felt that programmers did all the work. It wasn't the testers, it wasn't the TDoc people, it was the programmers. Second, people are aware of every single contribution they make to a project, but they don't often notice or know about some of the tasks that other people are doing. And this because it's out of sight and out of mind. Third, even when people have a clear understanding about what everyone else is doing, they are more likely to remember their own contributions than to remember what other people did. So this leads to a lack of gratitude, a lack of teamwork. And this kind of thing happens at home. In the video we're going to watch, we'll learn that they interviewed husbands and wives, and they added up the percent of work that each one thought they did, and it always comes out to about 140%. So this causes fights. I actually do all the dishes at home, but I won't put them away. I don't know why. I will not put dishes away, but I'm happy to wash them. And Linda does all the dusting and cleaning because I have allergies. And I think I do a lot. I don't know if I do, but I think I do. And then the other thing that happens is because we focus on our skill, our experience and our hard work, we really downplay luck, happenstance, the contribution of others. So there's a real imbalance here in the way we live our lives. And when this happens, we struggle and it causes suffering for us. So this is the video on YouTube. It is called, Is Success Hard Work or Luck? And it's on YouTube. It's a channel called Veritasium. And what we're going to do is, for the YouTube viewers, I'm going to put the link to this YouTube video in the description so they can pause and go away and watch it. And we will discuss it together during this meeting, so you don't have to go anywhere. So I wanted to mention a bit about what he talks about. He says, egocentric bias, most people think they do most of the work. And he talks about, even at work, if you poll people, the amount of work done is greater than 100%. He also gives an example of 18,300 people applied to be an astronaut at NASA, the aerospace project, and 11 were selected. And they're all highly trained, they're all highly deserving, they were the cream of the crop. But he shows that if you take luck out of the selection process, and it's based completely on skill alone, 9 of these 11 would have dropped out, and a different 9 would have been chosen. So it's not that they're not deserving, it's that it really affects on the margins. If you're applying for a job with hundreds of people, luck plays a bigger and bigger effect on the outcome. If they ask the question that you did your thesis on in college, that's a huge advantage. If they went to the same school as you did, it's a huge advantage. If you happen to know their next door neighbor, that might be enough to get you the job. Looking back, I realized that all the jobs I've ever gotten is because I knew someone. I've never gotten a job because I nailed the interview. A neighbor got me a job at Hughes Aircraft. A friend of mine recommended me to my next job. I knew a guy at OCBC, Reverend Harada, who got me this job. So I never nailed the interview ever in my life. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a pause. We're going to let our YouTube video friends go and watch the video, and then we will return. So I really thought this video was wonderful. One of the things I always say as a Buddhist minister is the answer to all questions is and. So, it's hard work, and it's good fortune, and it's having good teachers, and it's meeting the right mentor along your way. There's a lot of ands in there. My son Teague is Buddhist, and he moved back to Philadelphia to go to school to be a PA, a physician's assistant. He was living in New Jersey, and he hated it. He didn't like the weather. It's freezing cold. And he told me, he goes, do you know how much different my life would have been if I had been born in like 1945 in New York instead of 1990 in Huntington Beach? He said, everything would have been different. I would be a completely different person. So, even where we're born and when we're born, our birth order, all these things have a huge impact on our lives. And when he talks about luck, we usually think about this as random events, but I like to think of it as the influences and the causes and conditions that we're so fortunate to be a part of. And then the other thing that was funny, they had that race of successful politicians and corporate CEOs. Somebody, hit their head on a hanging coconut. A tree fell on a bunch of them. There was a banana peel that somebody slipped on. And my favorite was the spaceship. An alien spaceship came down and beamed some of those poor people away. So, this is kind of a negative self-awareness of how we think. And it causes a lot of suffering, and it causes a lot of selfishness. And it also causes us to blame ourselves for when everything goes wrong. So it's easy to take credit when they go right, but when things go wrong, it's not all your fault. You didn't mess up. You're not a victim. we're all in this together. We're all working as hard as we can, and we can all share in our successes and our failures. And then when we share that, I think it's a deep sense of oneness and compassion to one another. So I mentioned I was going to close with some more quotes. Mark Blum, there's many YouTube videos of him where he's taught our minister's assistants on YouTube. I've watched a bunch of them. He's really good. He said blind passions was a bad translation. He said they're not blind and they're not passions. It's incorrect thinking. It's deluded thinking. And it's inherent in the way we are raised as a human being. There's no shame in it, but we want to awaken to it. So we have a sutra called the Larger Sutra, and that sounds daunting, right? Larger. It's not very long. It's just longer than the smaller sutra. So relative to the smaller sutra, it's larger. But relative to the Lotus Sutra or the Nirvana Sutra, it's really short. And Dr. Blum has been working for decades, and he's translated the first volume of the Nirvana Sutra. And I bought it. I thought it was fantastic. You can hear Shinran's voice in the Nirvana Sutra because besides the Larger Sutra, the Nirvana Sutra is the one that Shinran quotes the most. It's a very important sutra to Shinran. It has a lot to do with who can be rescued, who can make it and who can't in Buddhism. And so this is the positive flip side to those 3 bullets I showed you from the Nirvana Sutra. The light of the great Nirvana Sutra can enter the pores of living beings. Even without the bodhicitta aspiration to awakening, living beings are still able to create the causality that leads to awakening. This is another reason why it is called the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. So this is like the Larger Sutra. Awakening is available to all beings. And this is a doctrinal point, but Honen Shonin, Shinran's teacher, was criticized a lot for supposedly denying Buddha nature. But Buddha nature is inherent in Honen's thought, and it's inherent in Shinran's thought. So it's not a question of Buddha nature. It's a kind of a technical point. Honen picked this up, and Shinran picked this up from the Nirvana Sutra. Bodhicitta, the mind that aspires for Buddhahood, is not necessary when wisdom and light and insight takes a hold of your mind and you see things clearly. Then you're quickly rushed to the front of the line. And then I wanted to show you some of the more positive quotes from Shinran that sound an awful lot like the Nirvana Sutra. He says, being grasped by unhindered light or wisdom is felt, but it is beyond conceptual understanding. To be free of any form of self-centered calculation is to have realized other power. By the benefit of infinite light, true trusting is magnificent. The ice of desire is melted to become the water of nirvana. Our desires are the essence of nirvana, like the relationship of ice and water. The more ice, the more water. The more desire, the more nirvana. So it's not that there's more desire, it's that you're more aware of your desires. The desires stay the same. You're just aware of them now. And the more you see them and the more you're self-aware, the more you change your outlook and your behavior and the way you move in the world. Your place in the world changes. When we entrust ourselves to Amita's primal vow, we who are like broken tiles and bits of pebbles are transmuted into gold. So this is the quote that Reverend Taitetsu Uno used for his book, Bits of Rubble Turned to Gold. So that's where that quote came from. What a joy it is, I place my mind in the soil of the primal vow, and I let my thoughts flow into the sea of the inconceivable Dharma. So this has this idea of being immersed or being taken in. So I think when you realize the profound debt that you have to all the causes and conditions in your life, you are becoming one with this ocean, this flow of life. And I think it overwhelms our egotistic bias. I'm not sure if it ever goes away, but I think it's overwhelmed by something outside of ourselves, something grand. Reverend Harada once told me that unenlightened people think they do 95% of the work and 5% is done by others. But an awakened being thinks that 95% of their life is sustained by others and that they do 5%. So, you know, I always tell people the facts on the ground stay exactly the same. You're still the same person, and yet this way that you measure your life or the way you value life totally is reinvented and becomes totally reinvigorated and turned upside down to align with the way things really are. So, you know, I still think I'm like this, but the difference is I'm aware of it now. And I think that makes all the difference in the world for us moving forward. We have a sense of gratitude, a sense of selflessness, a sense of helping others. If we are aware of what we received, we're much more likely to help others receive the same in kind. So this is, I think, the message for Shinran. It's kind of bittersweet. The more bitter, the more sweet. And I think when we watch a video like this on YouTube, it takes it out of the moral and ethical and religious realm, and we don't think of it in terms of sin or evil. It's a state of mind. It's a tendency that we all have as humans. I have one of our members at OCBC is a doctorate in psychology, and this is not physics. You don't really do experiments that are reproducible. These are tendencies that they discover within the human population. And it's contextual. If you're stressed out or you're, maybe in a pandemic, this type of bias increases with stress. So, meditating, coming to temple, practicing with a group, saying Namo Amida Butsu, bowing, that's enough to bring down that stress level, perhaps 10%. And that can make all the difference in the world to see something clearly in our lives. So if you could please join me in Gasho, we're going to close the Dharma talk, and then we will meet on the other side for discussion. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. So people can unmute if they'd like. I hope you enjoyed the video. I thought it